wayward sinner? Do you like blood, violence, and depravity of a sexual nature? Of course you do! That's why you're in hell! But what would you say if I told you there was a place to stay that had none of that? Welcome to the Hazbin Hotel, a misguided path to redemption! Founded 5 days ago by Lucifer's delusional daughter, Charlotte Morningstar. Come place your fate in her inexperienced hands as she tries to work through her daddy issues by fixing you. Here we offer fun things, such as somewhat functional staff and 24-hour pest control, custom rooms, and just look at this turkey parlor. Enjoy riveting conversation with our singular resident. Wow! All this and more at the Hazbin Hotel. Your last desperate attempt at salvation starts here.
Hello there, everyone, and welcome to another bonus episode of the Overcast, your joke-making, fun-having pop culture podcast. I am your host, Justin, aka Oversoul.
And I am your co-host, Nick, aka the Vaping Fiend.
Yes, and like always, we're bringing you reviews on any day. And,
yes.
Like all of our bonus episodes, this is separate from the main show, not a numbered episode at all, just a supplement, if you will. And the podcast is already a supplement to the YouTube channel, so this is a supplement to the supplement.
Yes.
Supplementary and complimentary, and completely free, so you're not allowed to complain. But anyways, on this episode, we're going to be reviewing and discussing Season 1 of this new show that kind of took the internet by storm, Hazbin Hotel. Although I should clarify, it's not completely new, as the original pilot was actually uploaded to YouTube 4 years ago by the show's creator, VisiPop, and people latched onto it. And then for the past 4 years, Visi has been spending time creating lore and background for the characters. People have been running with theories off of one episode. People latched onto these characters, loved them so much, and started creating theories and fan fiction and stuff. And it stuck around. And it became so popular that here we are 4 years later. The show has been picked up by none other than elevated horror production company A24. And a whole first season has been published on Amazon Prime. Not only that, but this show is also animated by Bento Box, who is known for animating a lot of Fox animated shows, including Bob's Burgers, Housebroken, The Great North, and so on.
Really? Okay.
Yep. So Bento Box is it's Vizzy's animation style. Clearly, she did the pilot on YouTube herself. But
yeah,
it's obvious when you watch that pilot from 4 years ago, and then you watch this show. There's definitely a difference in the, it's the same animation style, but there's a difference in the character movements and overall sharpness and cleanliness of the image. The obviously the high value production one looks a lot more clean and crisp, and the characters are a lot more, they move with purpose, whereas in the original YouTube pilot their animation is a lot more loose and, I dare say, noodly, more like classic Looney Tunes, really over animated, whereas the show, the first season on Amazon Prime, feels more like a well-drawn Disney movie, I guess you could say. And even some of the animation style, the animation tropes that they fall back on, falls very Disney-ish there, like a character, using a character's eyelids to add a certain level of expression to their face. It also seems to mix a bit with early 2000s Cartoon Network, Adventure Time and stuff like that, where characters would have over-exaggerated facial expressions. If they see something amazing, their face will turn into an oval, their mouth will be a big O, and their eyes will start sparkling and shit like that. Like, it's definitely got some of that in it too. It's got what I like to call internet meme animation.
Right.
Like, the kind of facial expressions that they know someone is going to screenshot and make a meme out of. Like, that kind of shit. And I love it. I love it. But anyways, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here. So, for those who don't know, how we usually do this is we talk about the thing where we are reviewing completely spoiler-free at first, and then we give a rating.
Yes.
That way, if you aren't familiar with it and you'd like to know more about it, you can hear us talk about it, and maybe it'll get you on board with it, or maybe it'll scare you away, who knows. But and then if you have seen it and you want to hear our deeper thoughts, or you just don't care about spoilers, well, in the later half of the show we'll get into spoiler talk, and there will be a warning before that. There always is. So
Yes.
So Hazbin Hotel is a show about the Princess of Hell, Charlie Morningstar, trying to redeem the souls of sinners, because every year angels come down and exterminate a bunch of the populace of hell because it's overpopulated. Most of the denizens of hell and heaven in this show are the souls of people who died, and they went where they went. And but Charlie is a hellborn. She was never human. She's the daughter of Lucifer. Hellborn means they were born in hell. Quite literally, they,
Yes.
So they're 100% demon or whatever. Well, in her case, she's part demon, part angel, I think. But anyways, so the Princess of Hell, in a very obvious homage to classic Disney princesses, is a very
Yes.
cheery, bright-spirited, bleeding heart, like, goody two-shoes character who wants nothing more than to stop seeing her people be mercilessly slaughtered, and she believes that even though these people have already died and gone to hell, there's still a chance they can be redeemed. And so she opens a hotel where these sinners she invites them to come stay there for a chance to be redeemed, to learn how to be good people, and maybe they can ascend into heaven. And this solves the overpopulation issue. And of course, a lot of people look down on because it's hell, and most of the people who are there are assholes. They're there for a reason. And so a lot of them, they're like, wahaha, what a stupid idiot, that'll never work, like, that's, like, yeah, like, you're dreaming real big, kid. So it's got your typical, like, underdog story thing of, like, big dreams, high hopes, and everyone is shitting on their hopes, but, and they're like, well, I'll show you, mister, by golly, the kind of thing. And the story definitely goes places that we'll be talking about later, but this is what I have to say. For a lot of people, my thing with this show, I think, there's one of two things, possibly three, that's going to turn them away. And I love this show. I love so much about it, and a lot of the things I love about it are mostly spoilers, so I can't get into it in full detail here, but I'll dance around it. But I do have one complaint about this show, and it's a
What's
complaint
that?
a lot of people have, even people who like this show. A lot of them have this complaint, so it's very agreed upon, and I'm kind of hoping they'll fix it in the second season. But look, obviously, I'm not some kind of pearl-clutching Karen who cares about cursing. I watch South Park, I watch all that shit. It don't matter, we curse on this show too. There is a point, though, where if overused, it crosses the line from being casual cursing into gratuitous overload. And I think this show crosses that line sometimes. The way that they throw fuck around, it kind of sounds like an 8-year-old who just discovered the word for the first time and wants to put it in every sentence. You know what I mean? It really does. And I get it. On some characters, it makes sense because they're supposed to be obnoxious assholes. Adam, for example, he's supposed to be an unlikable asshole. He is a stand-in for toxic masculinity. That's the whole point of his character.
Yes.
So you're not supposed to like him. And so it makes, so when he's saying shit like that and other things I can't say on this show, you're supposed to be like, ugh, what a nasty fucker. But then they go, it goes a little overboard when they just kind of throw it left and right. So I do worry that might turn some people away, but I know a lot of people don't care about that either. That you get desensitized to it after a while, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm.
However, and this is one of the parts I'm worried about, I do think that, and again, it's hell. You know, a lot of them are here for a reason. The show is very forward-thinking in terms of things like sex workers, which is good because we are here too. You know, it's a very sex-positive show. It's a very it's very open-minded, but it's open-minded and open-mouthed in that aspect, in the sense that there is a lot of gratuitous sexuality type stuff in here too, and that comes from the fact that one of the main characters is a porn star,
a porn demon.
Yeah. Well, but the thing about him too, though, is that he's also one of the characters that gets one of the absolute best redemption arcs later in the show.
Absolutely, yes.
So that's one of the things that, this is not the kind of show where you can really judge it on the first 2, even 3 episodes. I mean, I know it's asking a lot for an 8-episode season to give it until the 4th episode to really judge it, because that's halfway.
The 4th episode is where it really picks up, though.
But you kind of have to with this one. You really do. And it's because it is where it really picks up, but it's not without its moments, though. There are some moments, especially in episode 2, where you do start to see some of the characters kind of lowering their walls a little bit. They're dropping breadcrumbs of character development in the beginning, but the first couple of episodes are mostly just 17 fucks and a bunch of sex jokes, and it's gonna be hard for some people to get around that. It really is, and I understand that.
Yeah.
I can't blame them. It is, but it's the kind of thing, if you can get through that part, though, the reward is worth it. What you're getting later on is worth it. Here's the third thing, though. Here's the third thing, though, that I'm afraid might turn some people away. This is a musical. It technically is a musical.
Yes.
And not everyone likes those. This is a musical in the same way that classic animated Disney movies are musical. Like, there's a song, every 15 minutes. I shit you not.
Yep. They're good, though. I like the songs.
They are, though. That's one of the parts I want to hit on this. The music production quality in this show is absolutely phenomenal. And that doesn't surprise me, though, because they're hitting a lot of beats with the music here, and we will get more into each individual song in the spoiler section, because a lot of the show's character development takes place in the songs, depending on the song. But there's definitely one in particular. There's a lot of things being said in some of these songs. Some of them are just ways to convey information, but some of them have an important social commentary within them too.
Yeah.
But I think part of the reason that these songs are so good is because half of the cast is made up of Broadway musical stars. So that probably lends to it. The girl who plays Charlie, she is, I actually should probably be saying these people's names. Okay, so Erica Erica Henningsen, who plays Charlie, is a Broadway star. She's been in the Broadway version of Mean Girls. Um, she was in. I mean, she's been in a bunch of stuff on TV too. Like she's been in Blue Bloods. She's been in Harlem. She's been in Girls Five Eva. Um, but she has been in a lot of Broadway musicals. As well, and the guy who plays Angel Dust, Blake Roman, another Broadway musical star, as well.
Yeah, he's also been in Blue Bloods. He was what else was he in? He was in Hell of a Boss too.
Yep. Nifty, Kamiko Glenn, who plays
Nifty.
Nifty, not a Broadway musical star, but she is the voice of Penny Parker in the first Spider-Verse movie.
Okay.
The Asian one in the robot. Yeah, that's her. Stephanie Beatriz plays. I don't. Reporter is wrong. That's not. IMDb is wrong about that. Stephanie Beatriz plays Vaggie in this show, Charlie's girlfriend, who and
She was also in. She was also. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say Stephanie Beatriz is probably mostly known for her role as Rosa in Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
I was down. Okay. And then she was also Mirabelle in Encanto.
Yup, exactly. And Keith David is in this as Husk, the bartender, the cat demon bartender gambling guy, and he
That
is
man's voice is. That man's voice is you can't mistake that man's voice.
he's pretty distinct. He played the villain in Disney's The Princess and the Frog, Dr. Facilier.
Mm-hmm.
And also, he is probably most recently known for playing the president on Rick and Morty in several episodes.
Okay. He's been in a lot of my favorite movies. He was the voice of Goliath in the Gargoyles remastered video game.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, because he was the voice of Goliath in the animated Gargoyles series. Anyways, he was in both Agent Cody Banks movies.
Yeah. Yeah, so the cast in this is pretty stacked, and not all of them. Oh yeah, and then we have Amir Tale as Alistair, who
Alistair.
I'm not actually familiar with the guy himself, but he has been in a lot of stuff, including Harold and Kumar, American Dad, Family Guy. I think they just get him anytime they need somebody to do an old-time radio voice in like a cartoon or something, because that seems to be part of his thing. And we'll talk a lot about Alistair later, but so anyways, back to making the explanation on the show itself. So yeah, the songs on this show absolutely kick ass. If they're like, I think the animation is top notch. I think the music is top notch. I think the story writing is good. They do a lot of things, especially because I've seen it twice now. They do a lot of things early in the show where certain character behaviors and even some background stuff foreshadows plot twists that are going to come later. And stuff like that. The character development is phenomenal when it finally kicks in, and like I said, they breadcrumb it in the beginning. You may remember there were some scenes with Angel Dust in episode 2 where he was starting to show a little bit of remorse and even jealousy for another character who was starting to be redeemed. And so it's not completely absent of that in the early episodes, but basically, like, it's a huge tone shift because it's like, fuck, sex, and then all of a sudden, bam, it just hits you out of nowhere like a freight train with this emotional plot line about domestic abuse and drug overdoses.
Shit was insane.
Yeah, and it just like, whoosh, and then from that point forward, the show just continually gets serious. The next episode right after that one deals with like estranged parental relationships. You know,
dude,
and
it hits on
has
so
one
many
of
like hard topics.
and that episode also, both of those episodes probably have two of the most emotional songs in the entire show as well.
Yeah, no,
Um,
absolutely.
Poison and More Than Anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Um,
listening to Poison on the soundtrack was unless you watch the episode, you're not gonna really know the context behind the lyrics.
yeah, but
And
then
seeing
once you do, woof,
you, dude, it hits different.
it hits way different. And then, I mean, you know, no spoilers here, but that is an upbeat song that slowly as it goes gets less and less upbeat until it ends on a very sad note where the character's voice cracks and it sounds like they're about to cry.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely perfect for what's going on during that whole. And there's a lot more to be said about what's happening there, and we'll get into it into the spoilers. I especially want to touch on the line "I disassociate, disappear" and how that fits in with the visuals that are being presented to the audience. Because
Yeah.
God, in a way, you could honestly say that this entire show is one big metaphor for therapy and like the process of how therapy works.
I mean, yeah.
The resistance in the beginning, the difficulty of facing your own demons, and the reality of breaking down and facing it, you know, letting those walls down, and like the sense of relief you feel after the fact once you've, you know, figured it out. And I like everybody definitely goes through stuff, and nobody is perfect. They kind of call out even Charlie,
definitely.
Charlie too, where like she, out of all of them, is probably objectively the most morally competent character, but she has her own demons, so to speak, too, and like you know, she's definitely got mommy and daddy issues by a large margin, and on top of that, her whole crusade to solve everyone else's problems is basically just an excuse to avoid dealing with her own. Like, it is a big part of her character. She is one of those people that's hurting inside and hides it behind a cheery mask of happiness all the time. And there's just so much of that kind of stuff going on here. So many characters who, you know, at first, you know, in the first episode or two, they're going to make you roll your eyes. They're going to make you be like, ugh, this asshole. And then 2 episodes later, you'll be like, oh my God, you poor sweet baby. Is there anything I can do for you? You know, like they're going to grow on you. And if they don't, well, you don't have a soul. Fuck you. I can't like.
So I have to say, my favorite character out of all of the characters has got to be Angel Dust. Alistair comes in hard. Alistair comes in hard second.
Mine is definitely Alistair, and I will, since we've talked about Angel Dust, and we will more later, I definitely have to hit on Alistair for a minute. He seems to be most people's favorite character. Alistair is one of those characters that you're not sure if he's, like, you're definitely sure that he's dangerous, but you're not sure if he's a threat to our heroes or not quite yet. He seems to be, he's like what I like to call chaotic neutral. He's very, he's out for his own gains, but he does love watching chaos. He likes to watch the world burn, but he only gets involved in things when he absolutely has to, and he's not really on anyone's side but his own. You know what I mean? Like, he's the only reason he's helping Charlie is because it somehow helps him, and how exactly we don't know yet, but you know, I don't know if I buy the whole he just is like he does like chaos, but I don't know if I buy the whole like he's doing this purely because it's entertaining for him thing. There's definitely something else going on there. I will say when he gets mad, the thing that he's able to turn into is absolutely horrifying. It is
Yeah.
that Alistair's demon faces are absolute nightmare fuel. The one scene
Yes.
where Vaggie tries to pull the camera up to him and it starts fritzing out and he's like, I wouldn't do that if I were you, my dear. This face was made for radio. I'm like, Jesus Christ. And then, like, the way his face changes, I was like, ugh. And during the song in the second episode, when him and the TV guy are going at it, the monster he turns into at the end of that song is like something out of a Tim Burton film. It was...
Dude. You ain't lying, though.
It was like he was a spindly... He looked like the other mother from Coraline.
Yeah.
Just vicious and spindly. He turned into an eldritch abomination, like something from a Lovecraft novel. And, yeah, I don't want to get too spoilery or anything, but I just want to, like, Alistair is something else. His whole thing is, they don't talk about it much in the show, but like I said, there is lore for all these characters outside of the show. I think there's, like, comic books and shit, too. And Hell of a Boss, another show by this creator, by Vizzy Pop, that is on YouTube, kind of deals with this too. But when somebody dies, when they go to hell, their demon design is based off of a mixture of their personality, how they died, and who they were as a person. So in one of the episodes of Hell of a Boss, for example, this old inventor guy dies. He was an old guy in a wheelchair who was an inventor, and he dies when a grand piano falls on him. So in Hell, he's a robot. His teeth look like piano keys, and he's got like a Robotnik aesthetic, and his bottom half of his body is a big rolling wheel, like the mayor from the movie Robots.
Okay.
So, because it all fits his whole thing that he was as a human. So, Alistair looks like a deer. Alistair died in the 1920s. He was obviously a radio jockey in the 1920s. And he, I think he was out in the woods. He wasn't a good guy, because obviously he's in hell. I think he was in the woods hiding a body from someone he killed, and a hunter mistook him for a deer and shot him in the head, and that's how he died. So that's why...
Gotcha, okay.
That's why he has deer ears. That's why antlers grow out of his head when he gets angry. That's why he's got an X right in the middle of his forehead, a red X.
Okay.
And, you know, because of his job and personality in the era he died in, that's why he looks and talks like he does.
Old-timey radio host.
Yep, so it's the same for everyone down there. Angel Dust, for example, he died of a drug overdose, so he has no nose. It's like a cruel poetic justice thing, you know, because hell is meant to be a punishment. Also, he's a spider because his family was part of a big crime web. All of his family are spiders in hell because they were a big crime syndicate. They spun a web of crime. It's a play on words.
Okay.
So, also Angel Dust is just his porn name. His actual name is Angelo, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, so there's stuff like that for all of these. I think Nifty was a Yanadre in real life, like a Japanese girl, like really obsessed with
Nifty.
guys to the point of it being like this is the kind of stalker you got to call the cops on because they might stab you if they see you with another girl, you know.
Oh, the things I have to say about Nifty.
She's the comic relief character for sure. Also, she's meant to be like the child that everyone has to babysit and you know, and not give too much sugar or whatever. But she's actually 22, believe it or not.
Yeah,
she's just weird. You know, and some characters we don't have full lore for them like that, and you know, Vaggie, we'll talk about her in the spoilers, obviously, but yeah. But yeah, so that lore fits for pretty much every character. That's one of the good things. We're not going to talk about Hell of a Boss on this show, though. It is part of that same universe, but it's lacking in what I feel. I feel, anyways, it's lacking in the same level of depth and character development and
Mm-hmm.
dealing with, like, dealing heavily with social issues. Hell of a Boss is a lot more comedy focused. Like, that one is just meant to be funny, I think. So, because that one is literally about demon hitmen who other demons in hell hire them and they go up to Earth and kill people that they want revenge on. So, like, for example, this this one teacher found out that her husband was cheating on her, and she tried to kill. She thought that she killed him and the woman he was cheating with, and then she shot herself and killed herself. And when she was in hell,
Okay.
she found out that and they survived, and they made like a sob story out of it and became super famous. So in
Okay.
hell. So in hell, this dead teacher hires the demon hitman to go up to Earth and kill, like, finish the job for her, basically. So that's what Hell of a Boss is about demon hitmen
Okay.
who get revenge on the living for the dead. The dead hire them to kill the living for them, basically.
Interesting.
Yup. It gets really, really weird. It's funny. Also, one of the demons, Moxie, he's played by, you'll probably recognize his voice because he's been in a lot of things. Um um Most notably, he plays Raz in the Psychonauts games, but it, oh, I know you've actually seen something that he's in, though. Richard Stephen Horvitz plays Moxie, and
He
he
was.
he was the voice of Billy on Billy and Mandy
He
on
was
Grim
also
Adventures
the
of
voice of
Invader
Dag
Zim.
on Dag on Angry Beavers.
Yeah, and he was the voice of Invader Zim as well, like
He
the
sure
voice of
was.
Invader Zim. So, anyways, yeah. So when you watch Hell of a Boss, whenever you get around to that, because I'm sure you will, you'll recognize his
Yeah.
voice immediately. You'll recognize his voice immediately.
Oh, I believe
Um,
it. I believe it.
but but yeah, that one's fun, but not as story or character development focused as this one. But yeah, so this show does deal with some pretty heavy topics. I guess you could say that could be a thing too. Like, I think that's a reason to watch it, but I do understand how for some people some of the stuff it deals with could be a bit triggering depending on what
Mm-hmm.
they've been through, you know.
Yeah.
Um but I I definitely feel like it they say laughter is the best medicine, and sometimes I think a dark comedy is actually like the best place to deal with some of these subject material,
Yeah.
um
Absolutely. I agree.
is, kind of like a good way, I feel like they handled it right. Honestly, I feel like
Mm-hmm.
some of the scenes in some of the episodes, even with all the comedy and the gratuitous cursing and sex jokes and all that they do around it,
Mm-hmm.
when the show needs to be serious and emotional, it makes it work.
It
It
truly does.
it doesn't it's not a juxtaposition to the rest of the show. I don't know. It just somehow fits in with it. And I think part of the reason is because if you sit there and watch the whole season in one sitting, it really does feel like you're watching a long ass Disney movie meant for adults. Like,
Yeah. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
in a lot of ways, and not just the music, but like, in some of the animation, but like, uh, in character types and tone and stuff like that too. Story beats, um, the hero's journey, uh, that it follows.
Mm-hmm.
It hits all that. It hits all of that. It hits all of that absolutely perfectly.
Yes.
Speaking of Alistair, by the way, there is he is, I believe, meant to be asexual. And a lot of people, I think that's another reason a lot of people love him. He noticed throughout the entire show he turns down any and all offers of anything of a sexual nature coming from anybody. But it's funny because there is one character who calls him out on it, but he doesn't actually know what they're saying because he's from the 1920s and doesn't know what it means.
Okay.
To be asexual is to be on the ace spectrum of sexual orientations. And there's a scene in episode 7, I believe it is, where Alistair and Charlie are meeting one of his old friends in Cannibal Town, and she's like, "Oh, Alistair, who's this young thing you've got with you? You know, she's much too young for you." And then she's like, "I'm just kidding. I know you're an ace in the hole." And he's like, "What now?" And that makes me laugh because he has no idea what the fuck she just said. But like, she basically just told him, "I know you're asexual," and he just. But his reaction is priceless because he has no idea what the fuck that actually means. But
yes.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So you said Angel Dust is your favorite character. Any specific, like, any spoiler-free reasons as to why?
I guess I see a lot of my old self in Angel Dust, and it helps me, I relate to Angel Dust.
You used to be a coke-addicted porn star?
No, I used to, no, wow, no. The way, okay, so, wow. I went through a phase where I was...
Where I did a lot of coke.
No. God damn it.
I can't breathe. Which is probably what Angel Dust said during filming.
Jesus Christ. Oh my god.
Oh man. Oh shit.
Oh man. No.
Well, you don't need to watch this show for your juvenile humor. You can just listen to this podcast. Okay.
No.
Sorry, do go on.
I went through a phase back in my early 20s where I was a bit of a, for lack of better terms, man whore, and I was sleeping with anything, or anything. Wow, no, let's cut that out. Sleeping with no.
This gets better and better.
No. I went, without going into detail, I was a man whore back in my early 20s, and I did it. I went through that phase because I was in pain. I was hurting. Hurt people. Yeah. Hurt people.
Right. Yeah, and I can actually see how, obviously and we'll get into it in the spoilers more, his story is vastly different in a lot of ways, but also very similar in some ways. I see what you mean, and that like, that thing that you said about, like, dealing with the pain, masking, I think that's a big part of his story, too, especially with that speech that he gives in episode 4, which is the clip I keep sending to people to show them this right here is why you need to watch this show. This particular 2-minute speech from this character right fucking here is the main reason to watch this show.
Maybe I'd treat you better if you were real and not some bullshit version of yourself, always pushing my boundaries. Let me tell you, nobody in that hotel cares who you are, how famous, how hot. So you might as well just cut the act.
It's not an act! It's who I need to be. And this is my escape. Where I can forget about it all. How much I hate everything. A place where I can get high and not have to think about how much it hurts. And maybe, if I can ruin myself enough in the process, if I end up broken, I won't be his favorite toy anymore. And maybe he'll let me go.
Like,
Stop.
like
Angel
if this doesn't emotionally move you, like, then you just don't care about domestic abuse victims. Fuck you, go away. Like, oh, am I supposed to feel something for a cartoon spider? Yes. Yes, you are, because it's not what you think it is.
No, it's definitely. There's a lot, like, I think a lot of people would be able to relate with Angel
Honestly,
Dust.
though, as emotional as that speech is, it does hit a lot harder with the scene and song that come right before it. So,
Poison.
yeah,
Dude,
and the
that
scene that
song,
happens
seeing-
before Poison. The scene that happens before Poison, especially. That scene, that particular scene, which we'll talk about in spoilers, is why they had to put a content warning on that episode.
Yes.
Oh, shit. Alistair, Alistair's my favorite just because I love those types of, like, chaotic, neutral, smarmy, wisecracking, like, play both sides characters. Alistair is the Crowley of this show.
He's like, I want to help you with this project because it'll entertain me. The fuck?
Yes, but we also know that he's got a lot more going on behind the scenes than just pure entertainment. That man is a mystery, you know.
Yes.
He's one of those characters that you open the door to his room and it, like, leads to another dimension or some shit. Like,
yeah.
yeah, it's something else. But I love him for it, and I'm excited to see, like, what they do with his character moving forward. Because I think that even though right now he's something of a chaotic, neutral force to be reckoned with, I think he may grow to be an actual villain later in the show.
I've got that. I'm getting that vibe already.
Yeah, he's not quite villain because he's not a threat to the main cast. If anything, he helps them, but it's just like he's clearly a mystery man with a hidden agenda, and that's never a good thing. Yeah, you know.
No, it's not. Definitely not.
But that's one of the things I love about him too. But yeah, this is, you know, aside from the over gratuitous use of cursing too much, this show definitely has great writing, great character development, great jokes.
Absolutely.
You know, some of the ones, you know, when they land. Like, not every joke is gonna work for everyone in this show, but the ones that are, like, the really smart ones absolutely land. I like some of the stupid shit the eggs say, in particular.
Yes.
So, those ones are great. But I do think some of the funniest lines in the show definitely come from Alistair. Anyways, so before we move on to spoilers, really quick, we'll get more details later. A favorite song? Did you have a favorite song?
Favorite song?
From the
whole show?
Yeah, it would have to be, like, the first one it'd probably be the first one that comes to your mind, honestly, like the one that, you know, you could listen to over and over again. Easy answer for me, it's Poison. Hands down. Like, Poison, and then Hell's Greatest Dad is probably a close second.
I'd have to say Loser Baby.
That's a good one too, and we're actually
I like that one.
We're gonna get deep into that one because some people took issue with that song, and I think it's because they didn't understand it, and so I want to talk about it because I think that's the kind of song that really is, like, understanding that song and what it's actually trying to say is definitely what media literacy is all about.
Mm-hmm.
for me, yeah. Any song with Alistair in it is pretty good too, like Stayed Gone and Hell's Greatest Dad, but yeah, Poison is definitely my top one. So, um quick shout
But
out as well. Quick shout out as well to Hell Is Forever. That one's just kind of like a fun rock ballad song.
yes, yeah, and the
Um
Hell Is Forever was a really good one too. And
in
speaking of songs, Happy Day in Hell, when I listened to it for the first time on the soundtrack, it immediately gave me vibes of like the song that Belle sings at the very beginning of the Beauty and the Beast, where she's frolicking through town. And then
Yep.
when I watched the episode, it gave me the exact same vibes because it was like almost scene for scene, just like
A
Beauty and
parody
the
of that.
Beast.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, and I love how Vaggie tries to stop her from doing this at first, and from the singing and
Singing.
and run and like and she turns around and Angel Dust is like, oh, that bitch is already halfway downtown. Like,
That shit had me dying.
yeah, that was great. I love how they call attention to the songs. Like at the end of one of the songs, the end gets interrupted because these gangsters show up and they're like, "There they are! They're fucking singing!" and then start shooting. You know,
Yes.
like this is a musical, but it also is a subversion of musicals at the same time. And I think that's great. It kind of reminds me of Into the Woods in that aspect, where Into the Woods is a musical that is making fun of musicals, quite
Yes.
frankly. But it's not like an overt parody, like Scary Movie. It's satirical. It's more of a making fun of the thing by being that thing style
Right.
of humor. That's what you got here, mixed with a lot of other things. All right. So, favorite episode?
Favorite episode?
Yeah.
Episode 6 had a lot to unpack.
Oh, the Heaven episode? Yeah, that's
yeah.
a good one.
We'll get more into detail on that in the spoiler section.
Absolutely.
Because holy shit, dude, I've got a lot to say about that one.
The Heaven episode is great. Probably episode 4 for me, when the show starts really showing its hand on what it can do emotionally. Like, it just comes out of nowhere like a whammy. You know, you are not expecting that tone shift, but it comes. But I also think episode was it 3 did a lot to move the plot forward. That was the one with the overlords meeting, I think.
Yeah, and then episode 4 was a pretty hard hitter too.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. But yeah, so episode 4 is where the emotional stuff first comes in, but I think episode 3 did a lot to move the plot forward. And then episode 5 is really great because that's the one where we get introduced to Lucifer, and he might be like he might be my third favorite character on the show. I think I'd have to I'd have to say Alistair, Nifty, and Lucifer for me are probably top 3. I love Charlie too, but like you're supposed to love Charlie. She's adorkable. She's what's not to love. You know, she's the Kamala
She's like
Khan
your
of this show.
stereotypical Disney princess.
Right. And like, and she fucking squeaks when you squeeze her. Like that's just cartoon sound effects, but you know what I mean. She like, I do love how even she starts to change a little bit later though too.
Yeah.
It's noticeable and it's good to see. So all right, I think that's about as much as we can really say spoiler free on this. It's also as much as we have ever said spoiler free about anything on this show.
Yeah.
Honestly, which I think says a lot about it too. It's pretty good that a show
Mhm.
can have that many things about it that you can talk about without digging into spoilers, definitely a water cooler conversation type of show.
Mhm.
And yeah, so before we get into spoilers, the usual review. And I think it's going to be a 9 for me, if I'm being completely honest. I danced around that on a while. I was like, do I really want to get... Yeah, I guess I do, because after watching the first season twice, I just love so much about it that I can't not give it a high score. And
I
I can't give it a perfect 10 because it is not like it, as good as it is. There is a few things holding it back from perfection. One of them being the overuse of like leaning too heavily on some of the juvenile and toilet humor aspects. Like, the show has shown it can do better, so I expect better now. you know so it's gonna be a 9 for me, I think.
I'm gonna I'm gonna be honest. It's a 10 for me.
Okay.
I like it that much.
It's yeah, that's very high praise. Yeah.
I could honestly say it's like one of my new favorite shows.
I have to agree with you. I was not expecting to like it as much as I did, especially in the beginning. In the beginning, I was like, okay, yeah, this is fun and all. But then episode 4 comes around, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, this show is good. What the
See,
fuck? Quite
for
frankly,
me,
this show has no right to be as good as it is. Like,
right.
this is not the kind of show that should be this good. Like, it at first glance is not the kind of thing that you're gonna be like. It there is no way that a show about the princess of hell trying to redeem the souls of sinners, and it's a comedy that says the word fuck every 10 seconds, should be this good, and yet it is. Like,
see, for me, it tickles my Disney fancy, for one.
yeah.
And two, it makes me laugh with it being in a geared towards adults show. You don't really get that when you watch like a Disney movie.
No, they
You
have
don't
to hide
get
all their adult
it's,
jokes.
It's right, exactly. With this, it's right. They don't hide that shit, and I like that. It tickles my Disney fancy, and I get to laugh with my own dark sense of humor too.
Exactly. All right, so
Best of both worlds.
So that's the end of the spoiler-free discussion for Hazbin Hotel. You've heard, there's literally nothing else I can say to try and convince you. If you ain't gonna watch it by now, then you just ain't gonna watch it. But
Yeah.
if you don't care about spoilers, or if you have seen it, then stick around, because we're about to dig deep into them spoileritos.
Yes.
These halls really lost some of their sparkle without your lively presence. And oh, who's this you brought with you? Come now, Alistair. She's much too young for you. Oh, I'm just kidding. I know you're an ace in the hole.
A what now?
All right, folks, here we are at the spoilers section of the show. You have been warned. From here on out, everything is fair game. So, to keep things organized, I'm actually going to go episode by episode, so we can discuss
Okay.
each one in turn and the songs in them and whatnot. I'm going to start with the original YouTube pilot. I just want to go over it really quickly. In this episode, you're basically just introduced to everyone. Charlie pitches her hotel idea to everyone on TV via the news and gets into it with the newscaster. Meanwhile, Angel Dust and Cherry Bomb are having a turf war with Serpentius and kind of like making a bad name for what she's trying to do. And then when they're all back at the hotel being chastised, Alistair shows up because he sees this whole mess and he wants to quote-unquote help. And that is more or less... And you get to see how Nifty is born from his magic and stuff like that. And that is more or less... And how he summons Husker to be the hotel barkeep and stuff like that. And
I love Husker.
That is more or less. Also, different voice cast in the original pilot, but it was 4 years ago.
Yes.
So, and a lot of them actually from the original pilot went on to do voices for Hell of a Boss. Anyways, so they still got work over there. But I definitely think the cast that they chose for the full season on Amazon Prime was definitely the right choice.
Yes.
So, and for the most part, like Charlie and Alistair basically sound the same, and Angel Dust kind of sounds the same too. The only ones that really sound different are Husker and Vaggie, you know?
Yeah.
But anyways, so that basically kind of just sets up the only reason I tell people to watch the original YouTube pilot first, even though it is a little rough around the edges, is because it's basically the introduction for all the characters. Because episode 1 of season 1, it does give you enough information, but it starts with them all already being at the hotel. You know, like Alistair's already there. So, and a lot of the plot elements of the original pilot episode do get recycled into later episodes of the show, of the full show. Anyways, like they end up bringing a lot of that stuff back. So you're not missing anything if you don't watch it, the original pilot, but I do think that it is worth it just so that you have like a foundation on which to base everything on when you start the proper show.
Yeah.
Like you at least have an idea of who everyone is, you know, at least. There are 2 songs in that original pilot too, by the way, just like every episode of the show. Every episode has exactly 2 songs in it. The original pilot is no exception. Charlie singing the song, I think it's called Every Demon Has a Rainbow or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
And then when Alistair shows up, he sings a little song about, you know, getting the hotel spruced up. He's got like he reminds me of Dr. Facilier from Princess and the Frog during that song, actually.
Okay.
Kind of a voodoo guy there. Yeah. Also, like I said earlier, the pilot has more of like a wacky Looney Tunes physics-defying animation style, whereas the proper show has more of a grounded but still silly Disney style that's more focused on facial expressions rather than slapstick. I would say. Like reactionary facial expressions and stuff like that. Things like, you know, making like their bottom eyelids come up to show like suspicion or whatever. So what did you think of the original pilot episode? The original YouTube pilot.
I liked it. It was interesting.
Not a bad starting point, but
no,
you know,
not at all.
Okay. So the actual first episode of the show on Amazon Prime, in this episode, it opens up with some biblical lore about about Lucifer and Lilith. I thought it was interesting, by the way, that they said that the first humans in the Garden of Eden were Adam and Lilith, not Adam and Eve came after Lilith.
Yes, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
And Lilith also happens to be Charlie's mom, by the way.
Yes.
And Lucifer is her father. So I thought that was interesting, and it definitely feels like they're doing some, like, I get the feeling that Vizipop, the YouTuber who made this show, is a fan of Supernatural. I
would say so.
I feel like she might be, because I think I can't say for sure, but it definitely has that similar, there are good and bad guys in hell and heaven thing, and God appears to be completely absent in all this, and we'll get into more on that later, but yeah, there definitely appears to be some discourse in heaven in this show, in the sense that they're all just kind of up there doing a job and just existing, but nobody exactly knows anything, and there's not really any quote unquote boss to report to. It's just kind of like like how most Walmarts are run. Everyone just kind of like running around doing what they think they're supposed to be doing, but they don't know because they can't find a fucking manager anywhere. But it's crazy to think shit, that's how a gas station I worked at was run at night. There was no manager after 4 p.m.
Oh jeez.
Yeah. So basically the show opens on an extermination day. Like, there's an extermination actually happening, and this is when the angels come down to kill a bunch of demons to cut back on overpopulation. It's something led by Adam and his group of exterminator angels. And so in this episode is when Charlie gets a meeting with Adam to pitch her idea, and on the way to that meeting, we get the Happy Day in Hell song, which, as you said earlier, was definitely intended to be a homage to, or even parody of, your typical opening Disney princess songs, like the typical princess solo. I can do anything, I'm a strong, independent woman song. Actually, no, I think that actually comes later in the show. That's the one in episode 7. This one is more of the, I'm friends with the whole town and know everyone by name song. Like you said, like the beginning of Beauty and the Beast, Yes. It's that. It's just very, very similar to a lot of Disney princess movie opening songs, of that caliber. And, a lot of the other characters in the show definitely fit like your typical Disney character sidekick, archetypes and stuff. So that song was definitely meant to be like what do you call that? An orchestral show tune? Is that a show tune song? I guess
I would say so, yeah.
Or maybe what do you call those, like I guess show tune would be like when everyone is singing in the street at the same time. I guess that's a show tune type thing in there. So, and then Charlie has the meeting with Adam, and Adam is a very interesting character to me because he's definitely meant to be a stand-in for toxic masculinity. Like, everything he says and believes and does just makes him an insufferable dick. And they actually call attention to that in the show when he tells Charlie, he's like, I'm the first man, the original dick, or whatever. And she's like, oh, that explains a lot. That kind of, yep, Yep, I got exactly what they were saying there, and I had to laugh because I quite agree. um, you know, but yeah, digging it down here, obviously it's just like he's a stand-in for toxic masculinity. He's the original man, so like she was basically saying, "Oh, so you're why so many men are assholes," is what was going on there. So I appreciate that. But then when she's pitching the idea to him about her hotel and he interrupts her, they get into a badass rock ballad called Hell is Forever.
Yes, that was a really good one.
Yeah, where they're basically telling her, like, sorry, but they already had their chance when they were alive and they're just fucked now, Hell is supposed to suck. It's not sunshines and rainbows, you bleeding heart bitch. Bye. And then they send her out, anyways, yeah, so Adam is a fucking prick, but we get a very interesting tidbit near the end of this episode where we discover that one of the angels was killed during the extermination, and that's not supposed to happen. They're not supposed to be able to be killed. They didn't even know they could be. So they leave us with something very interesting there. So, any thoughts on this episode in particular?
Not too many. I mean, I really did enjoy the Hell is Forever song.
Okay. The next episode, we are introduced to Vox and the V's. Vox, Vivette, and, Valentino, and they are all overlords in hell that have their own agendas, work together at Vox Tech, and Vox finds out that, well, this is the episode, a lot of things happen here. First of all, we find out that Valentino is Angel Dust's pimp in this episode. Yes. We find that out to a degree, but not directly. Like, we find it out because Valentino is mad that Angel Dust isn't returning his texts, and he's bitching to Vox about it. But they foreshadow this earlier in the episode. This is the kind of stuff I like to see. At one point, Angel Dust is sitting on the couch, making a bunch of, funny remarks and stuff, and, like, he's scrolling through his phone, like, his phone is going nuts, and he's getting a bunch of texts, and the camera cuts to it briefly, and you can see it's a bunch of angry texts from Val, but it's like blink and you'll miss it, because it only lingers on it for a couple seconds, and then
I did notice that.
Yeah, and that's the kind of foreshadowing the show does that I really appreciate. And, but when Sir Pentious attacks the building, this is another reason I love Alistair. He is so fucking petty, but he's really smart at being petty, because Sir Pentious attacks the building, and he's like, "It is I, your greatest nemesis, Sir Pentious," and he's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "We've done battle like 20 times." And he's like, "Well, then you must be really bad at this."
That shit was fucking funny.
and then, like, he just, like, rips his blimp apart with ease, and Sir Pentious gets down, and he's like, "Ah, I gotcha," and he rips a piece of his suit off, and you don't even see Alistair, you just see the shadow looming over Sir Pentious, and he's like, "Oh, fuck." And next thing you know, he's being thrown halfway across the city, and Alistair is like, "Well, it appears I need to make a visit to the tailor." Fucking love that guy, man. He's just... Oh, God. And I love also, too, how whenever he gets angry and turns into a monster and his voice gets normal or deep or whatever, when he goes back to being normal, the radio sounds pick back up, too, It's like a... like, you can hear it, like, whirring up, like, and then the music is like, bum, ba-dum, ba, in the background. Like, it's fucking nuts. And, like, little touches like that are, I think, what make this show so great. But I do also love later in the show, Sir Pentious is, he's spying for the V's, but he fails terribly at it, but then he actually wants to stay and redeem himself. And one of the things he has to do is apologize to Alistair, and and he gives him the piece of his suit, and he's like, "Oh yes, you're the guy who ripped a piece of my suit off earlier." He says, "I definitely remember you now." Alistair is scary, man. I love it.
Yes.
Because I love how both Charlie and Serpentius for a moment just freeze in fear, and then they're like, "Oh well, anyway," and they keep moving on. But there is some development in this episode, both on Angel Dust and Serpentius's side, as one of the songs we get in this is called "It Starts With Sorry," which is again a very typical cliche Disney princess song. Like
Yes.
this is 100% the like, oh, my best friends are fighting and I need them to make up so the adventure continues. Like this is in a Disney movie, this is the third act conflict makeup song.
Yeah.
And I love it. And it really feels like Serpentius actually has a legitimate like desire to be better by the end of the song. So
Yeah.
and you start to see some character development there, and then when they are doing role play later, and I love Angel Dust. I love the role play scene where Angel Dust is like the drug dealer and Serpentius is the innocent kid, and he's reading the script and he's like, "Hey kid, would you like to buy some crack from me, the crackhead?" And he's like, "Wow, who wrote this shit?" And poor oblivious Charlie is like, "I know, it's great, right? Keep going." It's like... And my other favorite, and this is Angel Dust, is one of the other funny characters next to Alistair, because when they're doing the fucking dumbass clapping song thing like this, God, I've been to places where they've done group therapy, and this shit brought back memories for me. Or like church camp. It also had like church camp vibes. Some of the shit she was trying to do, like the team building exercises. It seemed like a forced team building seminar at an office.
Yep.
And she, when they're doing the clap singing, he's like, "My name's Serpentius. I like to build," stuff like that. "I'm very skilled," whatever. And it's like, it's Angel Dust's turn, and he just looks up from his phone. He says, "This is stupid." I do love that. But, anyways, though, he does start to, like, when they're all giving Serpentius praise for actually going along with it, Angel Dust starts to show some jealousy and remorse. He goes to his room, lays in his bed, and starts listening to his voicemails from Val, and they are the most bipolar voicemails. He goes from being like, "You stupid motherfucker, I'm gonna kill you and your whole family. I'm so sorry, you know I love you. I just get so stressed out from work. I'm gonna come there and I'm gonna slit your throat, you little bitch. I didn't mean it. Like, that is some, like...
That's some bipolar shit.
There are some people who are actually like that, and people who actually have to deal with people like that, and that is some scary shit. And
yeah, it is.
That's a very real thing that people go through, and that, to me, and that's in episode 2 that they show this, so to me, that's where they really are starting to deal with some of the stuff that's going on. But the problem is, I know there's going to be some people out there, when they hear those voicemails, they're going to think the show is just trying to be funny with all the cursing and the threats. I don't think they realize that it's trying to show that, do you think when somebody in real life leaves, like, if they've been, beating their wife and she gets away and they call and they leave her a threatening voicemail, do you think that they're all sunshine and rainbows about it? No, they say shit like fuck and slut and I'm going to kill you and shit like that. They actually say that shit. And, the show wasn't trying to be funny at that point, but I think the thing is, this is a very uncomfortable show at times. I think it makes people uncomfortable. And that's, but it's supposed to,
Yeah.
I think that's part of the point. Yeah. And that is, I think sometimes people mistake that uncomfortability for disgust at what they misinterpret as a tasteless attempt at humor rather than social commentary, which is what it is, How did you like this episode overall? Seems like you had a lot of good laughs out of this one.
Man, I really liked this one.
This is also the episode where we got Stayed Gone, the TV versus radio song, basically, where Alistair makes his comeback, shuts Vox down, and then turns into an Eldritch abomination at the end, leaving you on, like, that's a fun song for a while, and then at the very end it gets fucking scary, you know?
Yeah, it does.
And then you're like, okay, damn, I see they're setting this guy up as someone to not be fucked with very early in the show. Let's see where this goes. You know. And I do love the insults that he throws at Vox on there. But that is a fun song. Stayed Gone is probably one of my favorites in the show. Just listening to them argue about which is better between TV and radio and stuff like that. And again, Alistair being petty as hell, because in the song, he tells everybody that the reason Vox is mad is because he asked him to be part of the V's and he refused, and now he's pissy about it. And he literally says, "That's the T!" Like, damn. Alistair is a sassy bitch. Like, he's...
Yeah,
Definitely
I can
that.
agree with that.
So anyways...
Alistair's a fucking badass.
So anyways, episode 3, this is where things start to get really interesting story-wise. In this episode, the Overlords have a meeting hosted by Camilla, who is the weapons dealer in hell, and also happens to be I believe it's believed that in her life, her and her daughters were all weapons dealers for the Mexican cartel, and that's why they are what they are in hell together. So anyways, she held a meeting with the Overlords, and when Vivette shows up, being all disrespectful and shit, they do a whole song about it, which is a very fun song, by the way, and the beat and the tone to it sounded really familiar to me for some reason. I couldn't figure out why. I think they were kind of like, mimicking the style of a popular pop song, and I can't figure out which one it was supposed to be, but it's like, da-na-da-na-da-na. But anyways, this is the episode. Yeah, this is the episode where we find out that Camilla is the one that killed the angel. And we do get one of the best emotional songs in this episode to go along with it, called Whatever It Takes. Because this is the same episode where Vaggie starts to take charge on trying to redeem people at the hotel to help Charlie, and she starts to feel like a failure because she's not doing well at it. Then there's a duet song with her and Camilla where they are both promising to protect the ones they love, whatever it takes. And that's a good one.
Yes.
Alistair's fucking trolly ass too. Again, by the way, at the meeting, at the meeting with the Overlords, after Vivette and Camilla get into a song argument, and she asks her about the angel, and Camilla gets mad and asks everyone to leave, and there's an awkward silence. Alistair's ass is like, "Well, this was a productive meeting." I love him.
Yes.
It was productive for him because he learned that someone killed the angel, and then of course he leaves an egg spy behind to get, all the juicy deets for him. And that's how he finds out Camilla killed an angel. Notice that he keeps that to himself until it's absolutely necessary information in like one of the last episodes. That's what I mean. That man, he plays his cards close to his chest until he needs to, until he needs them. He's a double A. He reminds me of Axel from the Kingdom Hearts games, like in the earlier ones. He was basically playing both sides the whole time, in a lot of ways. But yeah, this episode did a lot to move the plot forward by giving us the stuff about the angels, and introducing us to Camilla, the weapons dealer, and some of the Overlords. Zestiel, really cool, by the way, that guy. He's basically like a shadow monster. Whatever's going on with him, it's very obvious that other demons are afraid of him, because when him and Alistair are walking down the street, everyone they pass basically kills themselves just because they look at him. Like,
I think that might be a metaphor for the Grim Reaper.
oh, that's a good point. So I don't know what Zestiel is, but I do know that he died in the 1800s and it's very obvious by the way he talks. You know,
Yeah,
he's from the olden days for sure. You know, wouldest thou prithee pray tell? You know, uh,
and that could be
stuff like
another
that.
another pointer that the creator of this show is a massive Supernatural fan. Death.
They might
Putting
be.
death in
Yeah.
putting death in the show, basically.
Well, Zestiel is an overlord. That's why he was at that meeting. It makes me wonder if because in order for a demon to become an overlord, they basically have to take control over their own soul and fate, and and to get those powers. Charlie has powers because she's the princess of hell. It's just part of being that, that kind of thing. It's not all cut and dry for them. It's not all the demons have powers. It seemed to be very specific to like overlords and angels and shit like that. So
yeah.
But some of them can do things like obviously like Husk can obviously fight with using his cards as weapons even.
Yeah.
So which is pretty cool. But yeah, episode 3, thoughts overall. And also which song did you like more, Respectless or Whatever It Takes?
Respectless. I liked it.
More of a fun one. Yeah, that one's not long enough, unfortunately. I wish it was longer. It is very fun. I do think Whatever It Takes is the better story song though. That one's very emotional because it's a song about a mother doing what she can to protect her daughters and also at the same time Vaggie talking about what she can to do what she can to protect Charlie. This episode, by the way, I want to point out a lot of foreshadowing towards Vaggie's guilt about hiding her true nature from Charlie. It's written all over this episode in hindsight.
Sure is.
Like, especially when they do the trust fall thing and she tells Vaggie to lead it and she's like, "You're the most trustworthy person I know." And Vaggie's like, "I'm not sure if I'm the best person for this." Like, that doesn't make sense at first, but in hindsight, it makes a lot of sense now. It's because she basically hated herself for keeping her true nature as an angel a secret from Charlie that whole time. Mm-hmm. And they were foreshadowing the shit out of that in this episode. So I do appreciate that. Great character development for Vaggie in this one in particular. Now, this is where the rough stuff comes in. Episode 4. This is the sex abuse episode.
Yes.
So
this episode really this is the episode where things really start to make this is the start of Angel Dust's redemption arc.
Yeah. Well, like a definitely a big push on it. Because in this episode, Charlie needs Angel Dust to be around the hotel more, and he's getting more calls from Val, so he has to go to work, which obviously for him is, filming adult films. And Charlie goes there to try and make things better with Vaggie's encouragement because she's the princess of hell, and she's like, you need to maybe throw around your authoritarian weight a little bit more. Like, you're literally the daughter of Lucifer. You can tell people to do whatever you want, but she's too nice for all that. She's not that kind of person, and
right.
She comes in and she tries to help Angel Dust, but she makes everything worse. And we get one of the most brutal scenes in the entire show where Angel Dust is dragged into his dressing room by what is basically his pimp. And he beats the ever-loving shit out of him, out of anger. And it is hard to watch. Angel Dust, he's begging him to stop. He's saying, please. It is like, this was clearly written by someone who's been through this or something. Like, this is like, you can tell there was some real, like, I've been a domestic abuse victim pain put into that scene. And, this is also where we learn, though, that Angel Dust is literally shackled to him with the spiritual chain. He owns his soul, basically, in a unbreakable contract. So I think that the show is going to lean later into trying to find a way to break that contract, because I do think that's going to create an obstacle. If Angel Dust is trying to redeem himself and get into heaven, how do they get around the whole soul bonding contract thing in that situation? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is he even allowed to leave hell if another demon owns his soul? That complicates stuff. So, I think that's interesting. And there's more to it, too. We also see later in the show that Alistair owns Husk's soul in the same way and threatens him with it at one point. But Husk seems to insinuate the whole reason Alistair even gets mad in the first place is because Husk seems to insinuate that Alistair is also on a leash, that someone also owns him. And that has yet to be expanded on. They hint at it. They do hint at it in the end of the show too, in the very final song when Alistair says,
I'm hungry for freedom like never before. The constraints of my deal surely have a back door. Once I figure out how to unclip my wings, guess who will be pulling all the strings?
or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
In the lyrics he hints at it. So there's definitely, like, Alistair's very powerful, so who else in hell could be powerful enough to have control over him? Because it's clearly not Lucifer, because he didn't even know who he was when they met.
Right.
That's some scary shit. Alistair's already pretty horrifying, but anyways, though, yeah, back to the Angel Dust stuff. Now this is where it gets interesting. After he reluctantly tells Charlie that she has to leave, and he's taking some of his anger for Val out on her, obviously, because he can't take it out on him. And, I felt bad for Charlie because she just wanted to help and accidentally made everything worse, and God knows I've been there.
Right.
And, she's a very relatable character.
Mm-hmm.
And things are worse for Angel Dust, but then we get into one of the best songs in the whole show, Poison, my favorite song personally, which is very upbeat. But the thing about this song is what's going on the screen and what's actually going on are two different things, and it's hinted at in the lyrics when he says, I disassociate, disappear, and it shows a scene of him being like, dressed up in like bondage gear, gag gear and stuff, and being forced around on people, but then it cuts to him on the dance floor dancing. And if you look in the background, there are video screens playing of what's actually happening to him in real life, where in the foreground, all of his dance moves and the positions of them are a direct reflection of what he's going through in real life at that time, the positions that he's being forced to be in and stuff. So when he says I disassociate, disappear, what he's saying is he's been through this so much, he's so numb, he doesn't actually enjoy this whole sex life thing as much as he pretends to. He's had to lean into it because it's all he's ever known. He was forced into it. He's basically a sex slave, and the way that he deals with it is by disassociating, which is a real mental health thing that people do, by the way. Like, you ever heard someone say, like, yeah, I just started driving and next thing I knew I was home, don't know what happened in between, must have zoned out. That's disassociating,
I've been told that I disassociate a lot.
So him disassociating in that, when he's basically being sexually assaulted and tossed around like a rag doll by all these people, his body he's given up on his body, but he's protecting his mind by disassociating. And in his mind, he's not being passed around and used. He's on the dance floor dancing and having fun and singing. And it's a visual metaphor during that moment. So that's what you're seeing, during those songs. And then every time Val shows up, it breaks the illusion in his mind and brings him back to reality. When you see that. If you go back and watch that scene, that entire song scene, it's very obvious that that's what they're doing at that point, that all the scenes where he's in control is in his head, and the scenes where Val is in control is what's happening in real life. And it's... and the lyrics talk about how he blames himself for being in this situation, and he's addicted to the poison, and how he uses drugs and alcohol to deal with the pain, and he's living it up like there's no tomorrow. And as the song goes, by the end of it, he's feeling remorse. He's done with all this. He basically says that he wishes he had something to live for. He feels like he's got nothing left to live for. And it gets really sad at the end. And then later, after him and Husk get into it, and they force Husk to go out and look for him, and Husk tries to save him from having his drink spiked and all that, and they get into a big argument. Like I said, Angel Dust gives this speech about how the drugs and alcohol are a way that he deals with the pain of having to live like this and what he's going through. And he's also, he allows himself to purposely, be drugged and assaulted and stuff like that, because he's hoping it'll break him enough that Val won't want him anymore, and maybe he'll let him go. And that shit hit like a ton of bricks when I heard it. I almost cried again just explaining it, like... That's pretty fucked up, just the way he says, maybe if I'm broken enough, I won't be his favorite toy anymore, and then, he'll leave me alone. Because that's not just for sex workers. That can apply to, like, people who are in abusive relationships and stuff, too.
Yeah.
Sometimes people will destroy their own bodies to make themselves less attractive to the abuser in hopes that they will stop abusing them. So it happens in... Then they get into, they get into a song where it's really interesting because it sounds like Husk is making fun of him at first. It's called Loser Baby. But the whole point of this song is that it's meant to be relatable, that you're not alone. That's the whole point of the song, is that you are not alone. Is that,
I like it.
Like, hey, we're both flawed. We're both fucked up. We both have problems. You're not, unique just because, you fucked up. We've all fucked up. Embrace it, and move on is basically the gist of that. A lot of people misinterpreted that song. Some people, called it victim blaming, said they were doing the Suffering Olympics thing, and I think they missed the point. They missed the point of that song completely.
Yeah.
That wasn't at all what they were trying to do, but that episode has great character development for Angel Dust and Husk, for sure.
Hell yeah.
Throughout it. So what'd you think of episode 4 overall? Or anything you want to add to this one?
Episode 4?
Yeah, this Angel Dust episode.
I'd have to say episode 4 is, like, overall, like, my favorite episode.
Okay. I asked you about favorite episode earlier, and you were like, well, 6 has a lot to talk about, but I guess this one is your actual favorite.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I think this one probably belongs up there as well. Moving along, episode 5. This is a fun one. We get introduced to Lucifer in this episode, and...
Oh, yes.
Charlie, after everything keeps going to shit, she finally gives in, calls her dad for help. He shows up, she shows him the hotel, and him and Alistair have a dick measuring contest. They are so at each other's throats, and it's one of the few times Alistair is actually one of the few characters in the whole show that doesn't swear very much. So Lucifer got under his skin because he made him swear.
Yeah.
I love their back and forth where Lucifer's like, well, I guess that's why Charlie called it the Hazbin Hotel, and Alistair's like, ha, it was actually my idea. He's like, ha, well, it's not very clever. Ha, fuck you. That was like, that was one of the few times where the curse word is the emphasis of the punchline rather than the punchline itself. I like that.
Right.
But anyways, though, after showing her dad around the hotel, it's very obvious to him that this place could use a little fixing up, so he gets into one of the most fun songs in the whole show, Hell's Greatest Dad, which, to me, had Genie from Aladdin vibes, with the way that he was like,
yes,
whatever your wish is, I can grant it, and he's like breaking the laws of... It's a very cartoon physics song,
Yes, absolutely.
And I really enjoyed it for that. But then Alistair comes in, and they have... It becomes basically the swing jazz version of a rap battle, where they keep trying to one-up each other.
Fucking dick swinging contest, I swear.
It was great, though. And they're definitely fighting for they're fighting for Charlie's affection, too, in this.
Yeah.
And this is also, by the way, some of those like adorable animations that they put on her that happen in the show. A lot of them happen in this song. Like her facial reactions to the shit both of them do throughout the entire song are absolutely priceless in this.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And he's like, Alistair's like,
who's been here since day one? Who's been faithful as a nun? Makes you chuckle with an old-timey pun. Your executive producer.
That's true.
I'm your guy, your day-to-day, your chum, your steadfast hotelier. Remember when I fixed that corn today?
I was stunned to make you, sir. Oh, you.
But my favorite part is when he is like fighting Lucifer for Charlie's affections, and at one point you can tell he's really trying to piss off Lucifer because he's like,
I'm truly honored that we've built such a bond. Aww. You're like the child that I wish that I had.
What?
I care for you just like a daughter I spawned.
Hold on now.
It's a little funny. You could almost call me Dad.
as he turns around and grins at him.
Yes.
And Lucifer's response is to pull out the golden fucking fiddle and go hard on it. And that was definitely a Devil Went Down to Georgia reference right there. And then
absolutely.
And then
yes.
after he goes absolutely ham on that fiddle, like I'm talking the fiddle solo for the ages, Alistair comes in with a goddamn keyboard. And then Lucifer kills it with an accordion on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Just because he's a sore loser. I love it. And then, of course, as it all picks up, then the song gets ruined at the end with that dumb bitch Mimsy coming in, whatever is going on with her.
Oh my god. Mimsy!
She was supposed to be, according to Vizzy she designed Vizzy to be, if a chicken was a flapper girl from the 1920s. That was basically what she was going for. So she had to explain it because people thought it was a Jewish stereotype because of her nose, and she's like, no, it's a beak like a chicken. You fools. She's like, the fact that you thought that it, like, that says more about you than it does about me, honestly. You know, that's what you thought when you saw it. You know, so, like, that's straight up basically more or less what she said on... It's like, she's very responsive on her Twitter. So,
yeah.
And, but anyways, though, I loved all of that. That was fun. But they definitely deal with some... I like when you first see Lucifer and he's basically just fucking around with a bunch of rubber ducks. Like, what's that all about? I don't understand the rubber ducks, what the point of that was. But, then she calls him and he's like, oh god, your daughter's calling and she hasn't called you in ages. God, how do I do this? How do I answer? And his go-to response is, hey, bitch. Like, nope, you chose wrong. That is not the right answer, man. Like, that was definitely the nerves talking for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, having him around was fun, and then the whole the thing is, so she calls him because she's trying to get a meeting with heaven, so she can make this stuff work, and he is trying to convince her not to. Then they get into a really emotional song that deals with like her childhood and how she felt estranged from her family. That song is another one that made me cry watching it.
I believe it.
Especially like when they're like when they start doing the duet and they're flying through the air together. It's just beautiful. And you can't tell me that isn't, yet again, another typical Disney-style, like, musical number and scene. Like,
absolutely.
It's a fucking love ballad, basically, except father and daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is... Exactly, yeah. And, like... How many Disney movies have you seen? I bet you can't even name them on two hands because there's so many, where a character has an estranged relationship with their parent, and they sing a song about how much their childhood sucked. And then there's, like, flashbacks about, like, when they were little and stuff, and their parents disappeared and shit like that. You know what I mean? Like...
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely that. Like, they're hitting all the notes.
Yeah, they're checking all the boxes.
100%, and I appreciate every last bit of it, for sure. And so, yeah, next to episode 4, this is probably my second favorite episode of the whole show. I think it's the most fun episode by a large margin, especially the Lucifer versus Alistair stuff. And then we also get to see Alistair go ham on those loan sharks too, which is also really fun.
That was epic.
Yep. And then this is also where we get to see Alistair show his true colors as the up there with Husk at the Also, I love when Vaggie tells him to get rid of Sir Pentius's eggs, and she comes into his room, and the man is sitting there eating a rotting deer corpse with a fork. Like, she opens the door.
Yeah, that threw me for a fucking loop.
It's funny. Like, I don't know if I think in his mind, I think he's doing it because no one was supposed to see him eating that. It was a private thing. But to me, it kind of feels like a sick and twisted sense of humor thing, because he died because someone thought he was a deer, and here he is eating a rancid deer corpse for breakfast. I think that's very Alistair,
Yeah.
But I like how when she opens the door, his room is just like this long, endless void of darkness with like one table, and it looks like there's grass, it looks like there's grass and even like a forest in there, and he's like eating this deer corpse, and he like looks down at it, looks up at her, and he's like, "Do you mind? I'm in the middle of breakfast." God, I love that guy.
Yes.
Also, I love how one of the eggs basically tells Sir Pentius that Camilla killed an angel, and he doesn't believe him because they always say crazy shit. He's just like, "That's nice, and I'm sure tomorrow you'll meet Martians," And then later when they actually find out about it, and the egg guy's like, "Oh yeah, we told our boss about it," and Vaggie's like, "Why didn't you tell us?" And he's like, I didn't know they were serious. They say crazy shit all the time." And then the egg is like, "Bank accounts are a scam invented by the shadow government." To emphasize his point. That's gotta be one of the funniest fucking jokes in the whole show. Honestly.
Yes.
That one is great. That one, and I love Alistair's reaction to being called an ace in the hole. What now? Like, that is such an innocent reaction and a funny reaction from him. But yeah, your thoughts on episode 5 overall? The Lucifer episode. Hell's Greatest Dad, and More Than Anything.
The More Than Anything song really kind of hit home for me.
Because
I want nothing but the best. I want nothing but the best for my daughter.
right.
So that song hit different for me. It hit home a lot.
Yeah, and Hell's Greatest Dad is definitely meant to be the fun song, like the
Yes, absolutely.
the fun sidekick song that you get in a lot of Disney movies, like Friend Like Me, would be like Zero to Hero, that kind of those kind of songs.
Another good example would be
Be Our Guest.
what was that one from Monsters Inc?
Oh, they had actual songs in that? I thought it was just an overarching soundtrack. They didn't actually sing in that movie very much.
No, but there was a song. Hold on a sec. It was at the beginning of the. It was the first song in the credits.
I just remember that being like,
If I Didn't Have You.
oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about now. Okay. Yeah, I could see that one too. But okay, overall, episode 6. Now, this is the one that you really wanted to talk about. This is the episode where Charlie and Vaggie go to heaven to talk to the leader of the Seraphim angels about her plan. They go to a high court in heaven to put their idea and prove that a soul can be redeemed. And in this episode, Angel Dust's old friend Cherry Bomb comes back to kind of throw things in a loop. She is an obstacle to his progress.
Yes.
She's an obstacle to his progress in this episode. And she is basically a stand-in for like when people are trying to, get sober or do better and all that.
Temptation.
She
was a metaphor for temptation.
She's also the friend that makes you relapse, or the quote-unquote friend that makes you, the one that's like, don't be a pussy, just one drink. And then next thing you know, one drink turns into 7, and then you wake up the next morning in a Piggly Wiggly parking lot with a Snickers bar up your ass.
Or naked in a Walmart beanbag eating Cheetos.
Yeah. She's the bad influence friend. The bad, the one who can't respect your boundaries and shit. I do think that given how she was there for the end of the first season, I do think she's going to become a mainstay in season 2, and I think they are going to try to redeem her. I think she's going to become a new hotel guest in season 2.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think so too.
But anyways, Charlie and Vaggie go to heaven, and they put their story forward, and we get to meet Sarah and Emily, 2 of the Seraphim, and we also meet, what was it, Saint Peter? Is he the one who sang "Welcome to Heaven"? I think that was who that was.
Yeah,
and they use Angel Dust as an example of all the things that Adam quickly scribbles down. This episode does a lot to say that even the denizens of heaven don't know how to get into heaven. None of them even know how they got there. And I think that's very interesting and says a lot. And the fact that God and Jesus
it absolutely does.
And the fact that God and Jesus are both completely absent here says even more to me as well. And again, this feels like a supernatural thing. Remember, God was absent for a long time and then showed up later as a villain. So, I have a feeling something similar might happen here, but I think there's more to it, especially with the stuff they hint at the end of the show with Lilith. But
yes, oh my God!
But we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a second. But
the juicy bits.
I definitely feel like this episode was making a very bold statement about religion in general, especially in
it definitely was,
especially in the song called "You Didn't Know," where Charlie and Emily both call out Sarah and the other angels by saying it's something along the lines of the rules are shades of gray when you don't do as you say, which is basically calling out religious hypocrisy, which I thought was very bold of them to do, because notice also that You Didn't Know is a rendition of Hell is Forever. It's a slowed down, darker, angrier version of it. And
sure is.
And in that song, in Hell is Forever, they said that the rules are black and white. And in this song, they're saying that the rules are shades of gray, which is a complete book ending between the two renditions. And I thought that was very clever as well. And then of course there's the huge plot twist that Vaggie is actually a fallen angel.
Yes.
That she used to be an executioner, and she refused to execute a demon child, and Lute, Adam's right-hand girl, punished her by ripping her eye out and cutting her wings off and leaving her for dead in hell. And that's when Charlie found her, mistook her for a demon, and that was all she wrote from there. She'd been keeping that secret for a while. And this is also the turning point for Charlie in this episode, because this is the episode where once she learns the truth about heaven, and after they clearly see Angel Dust do everything he's supposed to, and he doesn't ascend, and then after learning the truth about Vaggie, she basically loses her shit. This breaks her. Like,
yes, she does.
She's no longer like the cute, puppy dogs and rainbows. She goes a little, I mean, rightfully so too, upset with me. So, you said you had some thoughts on this episode. I'd like to hear them.
This episode, like you said, it definitely took some shots at religion. This one had a lot of good points.
I will say, I also noticed, so obviously for a lot of the demons in hell, they all have their like default appearance, but then they also have their scary appearance too. Parts of them they don't normally show unless they get really emotional. Like I noticed when Angel Dust was arguing with Husk, remember Angel Dust is supposed to be a spider. That doesn't really always translate very well, but he is. He looks more like a fucking Sesame Street Muppet than a spider, but anyways.
Yes.
But when he's arguing with Husk at one point, some of his other eyes open. You do see it briefly on him. So, normally he's only ever got two of them open, but they are there. Well, this happens with some of the citizens of heaven, too. Like, Sarah, when she starts arguing with Emily, when she gets upset, you can see more eyes briefly open up on her different hair strands, because seraphim are supposed to be actually really scary looking. And that design is actually based off of a very popular depiction of what angels should actually look like, which is basically just like, just this big ball of metal rings with 1,000 eyes and a bunch of wings, like a really horrifying looking creature. And that is like, I like that they kind of throw that in there. So the angels have a potential to look scary too when they get angry. And you see that briefly with Sarah when she starts to get angry at Emily, and more eyes show up in her different, hair strands and shit.
And weren't you saying earlier that like Emily is basically the heaven version of Charlie?
She definitely feels like it, doesn't she? She's like very like,
she does.
Like, oh my gosh, it's so nice to meet you. I'm so happy and cute and squeaky, like kind of thing. She definitely feels like she could be Charlie's long lost cousin, Like,
yeah,
they definitely,
absolutely.
Her and Charlie definitely give off like cousin bestie vibes.
Yeah.
with each other. I don't think
Agreed 100%.
I don't think they would be related in any other way. It would be some crazy shit if they like turned out to be sisters or something somehow, but I don't think the show's going to do that. I think she's meant to be a mere reflection of Charlie more than anything else.
Yeah.
Is what that is. She's the heavens version of her, and because she's got the same thing too. Sarah felt like she had to protect her from the truth, and when she finds out the truth of what's been going on, she's not happy about it. And it seems like not a lot of people knew. It seems like that was a secret between Sarah and the executioners, and Heaven was not on the up and up. Like on the, they were not informed overall about what was going on here. And when the truth is exposed because of Adam's big ass mouth, because that guy just that's when when your ego,
toxic masculinity.
Well, that's also a case of like his big ass ego like doing him in too, because like he is not supposed to say that. Then he says it out loud in front of all of heaven about the executions, and Sarah's like, "Adam, you fool!" And he's like, "Whoops! Well, I guess the cat's out of the bag now." He doesn't even like, he's not even like, "Oh shit, I fucked up." He's just like, it's cool, because that's just how much of a dick he is. That he's
a fucking douche canoe.
He can blow off his phone fuck up like that, and like,
yeah.
Now, the only time he ever says sorry in the entire show is like when Sarah scares him a little bit at the end, when he tells them, when he sends Charlie and Vaggie back to hell, and he's like, "We're coming for your hotel first, bitch," and Sarah's like, "That was uncalled for, Adam," and like, but he's expecting a better response, and he realizes that like literally everyone in that room is looking at him like he's a piece of shit. So that's the only reason. The only reason he wasn't actually sorry. His pride was hurt, is what happened there.
Yeah, pretty much.
I also like too that when we see his mask get beaten off later, that it shows that he really is just a man under there, and if it wasn't for his armor, he'd be a nobody. Quite frankly.
Yeah.
He's also probably the only actual human character that you see in the entire show. Which is different from Hell of a Boss, where Hell of a Boss has human characters in every episode, like Earth humans in almost every episode. In Hazbin Hotel, you pretty much only see angels and demons until you see Adam, but you don't actually see him. You only see his armor, the outfit he's wearing. You don't actually see him until the faceplate gets
much
broken.
later.
Yeah. So, but he is technically human, the first human. But yeah, so that episode had a lot of things to say, that's for sure. And I love that it sets up a mystery behind heaven. It makes, like, when you first see heaven, it looks like this perfect, pristine, clean, happy place. But then when they have that court scene, you find out, there's a lot of, like, they're not very organized, are they? Like, nobody knows how you actually, like, no one knows the rules. No one knows how a soul actually gets here. None of them know how they fucking got here. And there appears to be no leader anywhere. Sarah is the closest thing they have to a leader, and she's a seraphim angel. Who does she answer to? Where is the big man? That there's a lot of unanswered questions that they've presented here. But then, we move on to episode 7. This is the Rally the Troops episode. This is the episode where Alistair and Charlie go to Cannibal Town to convince the cannibals to help them fight. And Vaggie goes to Carmilla to learn how to kill the angels, because this is where they find out that truth. Also, in this episode, very, very important for the future of the series, I think, Charlie makes a handshake deal with Alistair in this episode. Which is something Vaggie did not want to happen. And it happens, and he's like, "Oh, don't worry, she still has her soul." But what is he gonna call on her for? You know what I mean? Like, I don't trust him for whatever it to be on the up and up. He's gonna make her do something she's not gonna want to do at some point or something, But she was so mad at Vaggie for keeping that secret from her that she wasn't thinking straight and willing to take help anywhere she could get it. Alistair knew this, and he took advantage of her emotionally vulnerable state in order to further his own in order to further his own gains. Yeah. And
he's on some shiesty shit.
He saw an opportunity for a deal and he took it.
Yeah,
he absolutely took it. So also I love that sing-song tone when he's like, I know something you don't know.
Yes.
That was beautiful. But also like and then when he, like, calls her out, he's like, oh, are you gonna wallow in your misery after dooming all your friends? And she's like, I'm not in the mood for one of your sick jokes right now. And she turns around, and then all of a sudden he's in the bed next to her, and he's like, who's joking? And scares the shit out of her. I love characters that do that. Like, they're there one minute, then you turn around, and they're somewhere else. Like that, they, like, break the laws of physics and shit. That is that, like, you know, Bugs Bunny genie shit that I really like in my characters. That's why everyone likes him, I think. Because he is the Looney Tunes stand-in for this show. You know, he's the comic relief. He is the Bugs Bunny of the show. You know, he's the smart,
absolutely.
He's the smarmy asshole guy.
He's on the shiesty shit.
He's the wisecracker, you know.
Yes.
And I love that, but yeah. Then we get a couple of really good songs in this one too, because we get Out for Love, which is the song Camilla sings when training Vaggie how to fight angels, where she's basically telling her that none of it matters if you don't put your heart into it. Like, you know, the best way to be a good fighter is to fight to protect what you care about. That's the best way to do it. You know, and that's just a really fun song too, because it's catchy too, because she's like, out for low, you know, just like the way it oh-y-oh-y-ohs, you know. That's always fun. And also too, because it's Camilla singing it, like the music in the background has kind of like a there's like a kind of like a mild Mexican sounding vibe to it, you know, with like the like the guitar strings and stuff. And then I think there's also some like maracas and shit in the background going too when the song picks up. So that's a really fun one. And you know, it turns out the secret to killing the angels is their own weapons. Only angelic weapons can kill angels, and that also happens to be the type of weapons that Camilla excels in selling. That's what she deals in.
Another hint towards the creator is a Supernatural fan.
You know what? That's a good point, because wasn't in Angel Blade the only thing you could kill an angel with in Supernatural?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm starting to think there might actually be a lot of parallels here.
Yes, I love it.
Also in this episode, though, Alistair and Charlie go to Cannibal Town, and I love the scene where they're just walking there, and Charlie is venting to Alistair the whole time about her relationship with Vaggie, and Alistair just could not give less of a fuck. Like the look on his face, the look on his face is clearly one of disinterest and lack of give a shit. Like at one point, he even takes his monocle off and wipes it on his shirt and puts it back on to show how little of a shit he gives about what she's saying.
Yes.
And then they get to Cannibal Town. We meet Rosie. They agree after and then, you know, she sings a Rally the Troops song that's got like a, you know, it's got like a solo bit, and it's got like the marching theme to it, and like then it's got like the whole chorus comes in with all the cannibals. That's another Disney thing. That's another, you know, this is the Rally the Troops song. This is the part of the story where the princess is trying to or somebody is trying to convince other people, like townsfolk or whatever, to join them for their cause, to help them fight the big bad or whatever, you know.
Like Princess Peach and Mario went to Donkey Kong Donkey Kong Country.
Yeah, kind of
to
like that.
Try to get
But I'm thinking
in
specifically
the
Disney songs that fit this. You know, the I call them the motivation song. Basically the song
like I'll make a man out of you from Mulan.
something like that. Yeah. Except this one has more of like a more of a Toontown marching band vibe to it.
Okay.
In this song, you know, and so you get that. I do love though when she's having a hard time getting them on board, and Alistair's like, "But you can eat all the angels that you kill," and then they're all on board all of a sudden. They're like, "Oh yeah!" And they start singing about it, and Charlie's like, "Well, that's a little violent. Can we tone it down?" You know, it just. Just showing who she really is, but she does grow a spine at this point. Like she does. She starts standing up to people, and she becomes a leader. So we get that. The Cannibal Town is my favorite part is when she's trying to get through to that old bitch Susan, and she keeps interrupting her as she's trying to give her speech, and she's keeping her cool, and eventually she's just like, "Fuck you, you old bitch," and then everyone's like,
yes.
Because again, out of all the characters in the entire show, Charlie and Alistair are the ones that probably curse the least, unless they really have to. Alistair curses like one time the entire show, and it's when Lucifer gets under his skin. Charlie only curses a couple times throughout the whole show, and one of those times is when she's angry at the angels, and another time is when she's angry at Susan the cannibal. Those are a couple times out there. Because literally during the final fight with the angels, every time one of them runs into her shield and dies, she says sorry. She keeps hitting him with the shield and saying sorry every time she kills one. And, because that's who Charlie is. But, I feel like episode 7 didn't do a whole lot to move the plot forward, but it basically was just like, we're rallying the troops. That's what this is. Like, this is the training montage episode. This is the this is the part where Rocky runs up the stairs before the big boxing match, and Eye of the Tiger is playing,
Yes.
Yeah, that's what this is. But still a fun episode overall. How did you like this one, and what did you think of Cannibal Town?
Cannibal Town was interesting.
Isn't it weird how they decided to animate Cannibal Town like they were all just like old black and white you know what they looked like is that one those black and white cartoon, like the guy Mr. Skullhead, I think he was from from I think it was like Animaniacs.
Yes.
One of the cartoons.
Yeah.
They animated them all to look like old black and white cartoons, but with like sunken eyes and sharp flesh biting teeth.
Yes.
I thought that was interesting. Why is Cannibal Town the only black and white one? That's so weird. I love it.
Right.
And they made them all look the same. Like literally every cannibal looks the same. They're just all like sunken-eyed, faceless, like that's great.
Episode 8.
Yeah, so this is where the final showdown takes place. The angels attack the hotel, and the denizens of the hotel, along with the cannibals, stand up. Vox and the V's are watching it on TV. The TV guy is getting way too into it. Like, way too into it.
Yeah.
But the best part of this entire episode, for me, is the fight between Adam and Alistair.
Yes.
That was an epic showdown, and Alistair actually... To my dismay, by the way, because I was really hoping Alistair would fucking rip him a new one because I hate Adam so much, but he actually bested him. He broke his magical microphone, which is a very important artifact to him. I think he kind of needs that. And for the first time in the entire show, we actually see Alistair worried. He's still smiling, because remember, in the show early when Charlie calls him out on the fact that he's always smiling and enjoying their suffering, he tells her, just because you see a smile, don't think that means you know what's going on underneath. which I think is a very important line. He said, "A smile can be a smile can be a very important tool because it keeps your enemies guessing and gives you the upper hand."
Sure does.
And so even after his microphone breaks and he's like, "Wait, what happened?" Oh, fuck. He's still smiling, but you can actually see, like, some dismay on his face in the process. How they were able to animate that to where he's still smiling, but you can tell that he's displeased with what just happened at the same time. That's part of the reason I love the animation. Alistair is always smiling, and yet he's still able to show very clear emotions through his facial expressions, even with the smile. You can tell when he's angry, you can tell when he's genuinely happy, yeah, it's crazy.
It's insane.
That fight had some great lines too. Adam and Alistair throwing them at each other. He's like, "Don't you know jazz is for pussies?" And he's like, "Rock and roll." They're fighting. But when Alistair starts getting the best of him and Adam starts getting flustered, he's like, he can't do insults anymore. He's like, "Oh yeah, well, you've got too much red, you fucking red fuck, shut up," Alistair's response to that is the absolute best, because it sounds like something I would say. He's like, "Ha ha ha, poetry." Basically just making fun of him for like not being able to say anything. He's like, "That was beautiful. Have you considered being a professional songwriter?"
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, that's great. But then Alistair loses that fight, but he won't let himself die. He pieces out. He runs away with his tail between his legs, but he lives on to fight another day.
The one part of this episode that really got me emotional kinda was the way Pentious went out.
Yes, so I definitely have to talk about that, because Pentious sacrifices himself, and it's kind of stupidly funny at the same time, because he puts all of this effort into, he's like, "Fire the death ray," and it's all this big buildup.
Yes.
And Adam's like, "Huh?" And then he just snaps his fingers like Thanos, and the whole thing just disappears. And he's like, "Whoa, that was close."
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, he just zapped that man into oblivion. Poof, gone, no effort. That was anticlimactic as fuck.
And then we find out later that Sir Pentious actually redeemed himself.
Yeah, so that
and ended up going to heaven. That was pretty fucking cool.
That part surprised the hell out of me. I wasn't expecting that at all. I thought he was just gone for good. But then we see that he actually ends up in heaven, and Sarah and Emily are sitting there, and Emily makes the most adorable squeak reaction to seeing him show up in heaven. And also his outfit has changed too, his whole demeanor. He's not he's been redesigned to look more heavenly now, instead of like a demon. Instead of evil eyes on his snake fins or whatever. Now he's got hearts and shit. He's wearing all white instead of all black.
Exactly.
But even before that, though, the fight's going crazy. Cherry Bomb is there helping them fight, which is why she becomes part of this now, I think, too. It was a great fight. Alistair's shield was holding up pretty well for a while, but of course Adam, I love that Sir Pentious basically confesses his love for Cherry Bomb before, sacrificing himself.
Yeah, that.
And then, when everything seems like it's about to go to shit, Charlie actually, puts up a good fight against Adam. She actually gets into it. She unleashes her...
Sure fucking does.
She unleashes her full Daughter of Lucifer powers, gets out the trident, she grows the horns and the evil eyes and all that, and the tail, and she goes into it. Her little dragons turn into big dragons. I'm pretty sure one of them died, though. I'm pretty sure Loot killed the one that Vaggie was riding on, and then You know, you get that fight between Vaggie and Loot because that's unfinished business from the past.
Right.
And Vaggie wins that fight by trapping Loot under the rocks, and you know, she shows her mercy, and that bitch rips her own arm off in order to escape. That's insane. You know, I also like how angels bleed gold. Like it's like their blood is like literally gold. That's interesting. And she rips her own arm off to escape, and eventually it leads to a retreat down the line, but not until Adam gets the shit knocked out of him by Lucifer, who shows up at the last possible second to save the day. You know, it finally comes out of nowhere. You know, Adam has beaten the shit out of his daughter, so now he ain't playing no more. Although he definitely toys with him. He turns into a snake and a horse and all kinds of things. It's fun. You know, it's definitely like, that gave me like weird Disney vibes too. Like when the magical sidekick is like, you know, like fighting, you know, one of the other things. So, but, you know, Lucifer basically wins the fight. It was funny when he was like, you messed with my daughter, and now I am gonna fuck you, and then everyone gets silent for a second, and Charlie's like,
I think the term is, I'm gonna fuck you up.
Yeah, Charlie's like, it's fuck you up, Dad. And he's like, wait, what'd I say? And then immediately gets punched by Adam. Those are one of the few times where I think that, like, their use of fuck was not gratuitous and actually deserved in that moment.
Yeah.
You know, there's just too many moments, especially early in the show, where it feels like they're trying to weed out the Karens by seeing how many curse words you can deal with. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You know, and I again, though, it just, like, obviously I'm not bothered by it, but at the same time, I do feel like, there's a point where it crosses a line into being overused, and I think they crossed that line about halfway through episode 2. So,
right. You
know, I think they need to rein it in a little bit on that shit, you know, in particular. And then it'll be fine. But yeah, so they win the battle against Adam, who is, even after the beating from Lucifer, is still standing until Nifty, of all people, shows up and stabs him in the back. And then after... Oh
my god. Dude, so when it was revealed that Nifty did this, is the one that stabbed Adam, everybody's response, including Charlie's, which was priceless, she was like, Nifty! This shit was fucking hilarious.
I love how there are a lot of moments in this show where when a character says
Nifty
or does,
is fucking hilarious.
There are a lot of moments in the show where a character will say or do something very interesting or scary or out of pocket or whatever, and if you look at the faces of the other characters in the background, they will all have distinctly different reactions.
Yes.
Like when Lucifer and Satan were arguing in the background, Husk was looking worried, whereas Nifty and Angel Dust were enjoying it. That's the other thing, too. Yeah, I think the funniest thing Nifty says in the entire show is, like, when Vaggie and Charlie come back and they are still there. They're all still there, and they're fortifying the defenses. And they're like, you're still here, and all that. And, like, Husk is like, I just got used to you guys. I'm not finding new drinking buddies and all that. And Nifty's like, she's like, I can't leave. I named all the spots on the carpet. That one's Fred. that was the funniest.
Oh my god,
that was the absolute like funniest line from her in the whole show. That one was great.
Fucking funny. Okay, so you want to hear something even funnier?
What?
The little girl that plays the girl that plays the voice of Nifty, is also the voice of Nickelodeon's version of Baby Shark.
Yes. Yup. 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 Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, but then Yeah, and we get 2 songs in this one too. We get a shorter rendition of Whatever It Takes, and this one is between Charlie and Vaggie. More than anything,
Yes.
not Whatever It Takes, more than anything. We get a reprise of that. A shorter
Yes.
version between Vaggie and Charlie. And then we get the finale song where they all talk about how, we can build it, we can fix it, we can make a new hotel, and I'm like, okay, tell me this isn't the song from the end of Encanto where all the village comes to help them rebuild the house.
Yeah, pretty fucking much.
Exactly. Like, this show is so fucking Disney. It wears it on its sleeve.
Major Disney vibes.
Like, it knows that it's biting Disney style, and it's proud of that fact. Like, it owns it.
Yes.
I
love every minute of it.
Yes.
Like I said earlier, it's hands down easily one of my new favorite shows.
It's like, okay, it's Disney storytelling and Disney music in a show that's animated like it was in 2010's Cartoon Network.
Yep.
Yeah, it's Cartoon Network animation with a Disney vibe overall. It's such a weird mix, like, tell me that guy, the TV head guy, Vox, isn't like the most Cartoon Network looking character you've ever seen.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, he's like,
almost like Mojo Jojo type shit.
Yeah, he's a dead ringer. Not for that character, but you know what I mean. He looks like he could be. He looks like he could be a Powerpuff Girl villain, or he looks like he could have been a bad guy on the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. That's actually,
or even
one of the another
Courage the Cowardly Dog.
That's another big vibe I get from this show, by the way. Billy and Mandy. Like, I get huge Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy vibes from, like, the animation and like, some of the dark humor and stuff in this, too. And the character designs, more specifically. Also, if you look at each character individually, I think they're all animated to be representations of different types of things. Like, Charlie is definitely meant to look like a Disney princess, and almost like a like, she's got like a little black button nose and everything. Like, she's meant to be like,
yep.
I think she's also meant to kind of look a little bit like a dog, maybe.
Little bit.
And she's just got like this whole like Disney princess vibe thing going for her. But then you have characters like Vox, who feel like, he could have been like on the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. The TV guy feels like he could have easily fit on a show like that. Like, each character is actually animated in a different distinct style, and there is like an overall arching vibe to it. Like, there's a lot of red and white. Like, red and white are like the 2 colors you see the most in this show.
Yes.
And red, white, and black seem to be the biggest color palettes, and obviously everything's red. It's hell. It's supposed to be red.
Yep.
But each character is animated in a way that is a little bit different. Like, each character gives a vibe of a different show. Like, Nifty looks like she could have came straight out of Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends.
Yes, I was thinking the same thing.
Something like that. Yeah, so they're all just a little bit different from each other, with Charlie definitely being one of the most cartoony. Also notice, too, that their animation lighting, too. Like, Charlie, her animation is always bright. Like, anytime you see her character is always, like, her colors are very vivid and shiny. And then you have characters like Vaggie, who she's, like, mostly gray and, like, darker, like, more shadowy. And that's intentional in the animation style, I think, that they do stuff like that. So, Solid, absolutely solid. And then, of course, the show ends on one of the biggest cliffhangers fucking imaginable, where we find out that
Oh my god.
Charlie's
Yes.
Charlie's mother Lilith has been in heaven this whole time and made a deal with Adam, and now that he's dead, the deal is over. And Lute says you need to get down there and take care of your fucking hellspawn, or something along those lines. Like, stop your daughter before I do, or some shit like that. And that's what they leave us on. Serpentius gets into heaven, and then that shit with Lilith, and that's what they leave us on. I'm like, oh fuck, I can't wait another year and a half for season 2 after that. Are you shitting me?
Right.
This is
You
gonna
know
be
how many times I'm gonna go back and watch this season?
But this is a hand-drawn animation show that is being created by a YouTuber. Granted, she's now being backed by a production company as big as A24 and Amazon Prime.
Yes.
So that's a big deal, but like, quality takes time. Seasons of Rick and Morty notoriously had like year and a half to 2 year turnaround times between seasons.
Makes sense.
Earlier on, they're faster now, probably because they don't have Justin Roiland drunkenly interrupting everything anymore. But,
right.
But like they already said, like this season just came out in January, and people already want more. And they were like, "Sorry guys, it's gonna be like a year and a half before the next season. It's gonna be a while."
Right.
In the meantime, watch Hell of a Boss. Which has two seasons currently. So there you go. If you need more, watch that. That'll fill it for now. But anyways, any closing thoughts on all this, or the finale episode and the show in general?
When they left us on that cliffhanger, I'm like, oh shit. They're leaving. This is like one of the biggest. Not like. I want more. I can't wait for the second season.
I know, right? Like, I've already watched the whole show twice now, and I may go for a second, even third time, quite frankly. This show, it's only 8 episodes. Each episode is like 20 minutes long. I can watch the entire season in like 2 days. 1 day if I really sit there. It's the length of a fucking longer Marvel movie, like a 3.5 hour Marvel movie, basically.
This would easily be one of my regular night shows. Like I put it on as a background noise to fall asleep to.
I could see myself rewatching this show as much as like someone like a kid would rewatch their favorite Disney movie over and over again till their parents get sick of it.
Yeah.
Like, how many times can like parents will be like, "Oh, I can't hear Let It Go anymore without wanting to vomit because my kid won't stop watching that movie." Well, if I was your kid, you would be hearing you'd be here more than anything over and over again. So,
Yes.
So, yeah. But anyways, so that is our discussion and review on Hazbin Hotel. Probably the longest review episode we've ever done, but this show deserved it.
Yeah.
Also, keep in mind, we weren't just talking about a movie or a game. We were talking about a whole season of a show.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a lot to unpack there, but I really enjoyed this. If you'd like to give this show a look for yourself, you can watch the original pilot episode from 4 years ago on VisiPop's YouTube channel, but also the show proper, season 1, all 8 episodes, are on Prime Video, which you can get through Amazon Prime.
Yes.
So, but anyways, if you're a fan of the show, let me know your thoughts. If you're watching the video version of this, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Click the like button if you enjoyed it. You can send me an email at mroversoul53@gmail.com. That's MROVERSOUL53. And also, I'm on Twitter at Oversoul53.
And you can find me on Twitter at the Vaping Fiend. You can also find me over on TikTok at the.vaping.fiend.
All right. And that has been the bonus episode, review and discussion of Hazbin Hotel. Hope you all enjoyed it. Have yourselves a wonderful day, night, morning, weekend, whatever it is, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I just got used to you guys. I ain't finding no new drinking buddies.
I've named all the stains on the carpet. That one's Fred.